Hey YouTube, Homestead Prepper, and I want to take y'all along today with me on my latest project, and I'm going to be converting this compound bow into a survival takedown bow do-it-yourself. And the reason I'm going to be converting this bow is because I can't find replacement parts for it, and this was purchased at the flea market. It cost $5, and what I'm going to do is take these limbs off, and I'm going to make some new limbs out of this cherry wood I've got here. And I'm going to reuse the riser, and if you don't have a riser, you have access to a cheap bow, you can make your own riser out of wood. They've been doing it for thousands of years with limited tools. So it should not be too tough of a project today with everything that we have. And now I know you're probably saying, well, why don't you just reuse the limbs that are on here? Well, I've tried to pull this thing back, and this is like, you know, way over 100 pounds. I don't know, this might be 200 pounds of pull. When the compound works, you're not pulling the limbs back, you're pulling these little wheels in here, and that's how it gets its power. But this is way too much. I'm comfortable shooting a 60 or 70 pound bow. I mean, you know, if you're comfortable shooting a 350 pound war bow, then, you know, knock yourself out. But this is going to be for my needs, and what I like about a takedown bow is I'm going to be able to take this apart, and I'm going to be able to put this in my backpack, and that is going to make me a much more efficient hunter-gatherer, and I'll also be a lot more quiet. You know, you start pulling out firearms to do some hunting, it's very noisy. That is one advantage the bow has. Now, they're not silent, they do make noise, but they're not as noisy as firearms. And in the future, if you have your firearms confiscated from you, or someone steals them from you, having a backup bow is going to be able to increase your survivability quite a bit. You know, and you can hunt all kinds of game with the bow. You can even do bow fishing, which is a very efficient way to fish. But anyway, let me just give you a little bit of what I'm doing. And now I am not a professional bow maker, so yeah, whatever I say here, you need to, you know, make your own at your own risk. But this is a piece of scrap cherry wood I have left over from a project, and it's about 2 inches wide. It's about 27 inches long, and they say you're supposed to look at the grain and all that. Well, I'm not really worried about that, because what I'm going to be doing is backing this with fiberglass, and you can buy your fiberglass from they have some online suppliers, and it's, you know, $17 or $20, or you can do it the Homestead Prepper way. And what you see here, let's see if we can show this in here. This is some fiberglass I cut up, and this is a railroad crossing arm that I got out of a dumpster with permission, and I got it for free. And I just took my saw. Actually, I used a metal cutting blade to cut this, and I was able to cut some strips out of it. And, I got all kinds of pieces, and they can just be sanded down to the right thickness. So that is one option. Now, they, from what I understand, they've been making bows using sinew, and you can put bamboo on the outside of it. You can even, you know, use wood glue and fiberglass mesh, like drywall tape, on there to strengthen up the outside, because when the bow bends on the outside, that's where it generates its force, and you don't want it to break on you. And all of the force goes to the center. That's why the riser is bigger than any other part of the bow, because it goes right here, and you don't want that to snap. And like I said, I've never done this before. I've never even heard of anybody using railroad crossing arms to reinforce a homemade bow. So what I did is I started off with some scrap pieces of wood here. And this is some scrap cherry that I have, and I got some Loctite, some of this grab stuff right here, caulk, and I put this on here, and I tried to bend it, and it came apart. It delaminated. So this is great stuff for construction, and, you know, putting cabinets and furniture together, and, you know, main beams and plywood. But for bow making, I'm not recommending it. Okay. So that was a failure. I'll share with y'all. The next thing I did is I went and I got some of this Titebond 3, because it's waterproof. And you know, my bow, I want it in case it gets wet, it doesn't come apart. And I've glued up some stuff outside for some projects with this type of glue, and left it out there in the rain and it comes apart. You know, now if you glue it up and you're using it inside, this is great stuff. I recommend it. But for waterproof, this was about, well, this was $7.97 plus tax. And I got a scrap piece of fiberglass, and I glued it on there, and I let it set up for about 2 days. And I know you're supposed to put it in a hot box and, you know, let it set up there for 7 days and things like that. And I took it and I bent it like that, and I could not break it. Now what I did, the failure was, is I bent it over like this, and I tried to bend it and it snapped off. Okay, but see, it's not meant to bend that way, it's meant to bend this way. This way it held, so I'll consider that a success. And what I've done over here is I've already got a piece of my cherry wood, and I've got a piece of this fiberglass here, and I got a piece of oak. This has come out of my personal sawmill collection, and I've got it glued down, and I've got it to this table, and I'm gonna let, like I said, I don't have a hot box. I'm just gonna let this set in here for, well, probably a week or two. So part 2 might be a long ways coming, so y'all just have to bear with me. But I just want to show you what I was doing. So let me get this set up, and I'll show you how it's glued up. Okay, we're just going to put a little glue on here like this, and then I'm going to make sure that it's nice and even all over the thing, because I want the whole thing to bond. I don't want to do it like you do caulk on roofing and stuff like that. So anyway, y'all got the idea for that. Okay, I got the glue spread out, and this piece of fiberglass right here, it has 2 sides to it, and this kind of looks kind of rough. I've sanded this with my belt sander to rough it up a little bit, and I'm probably going to be putting that side down and this side out, and I'll be able to, after this sets up, sand this with a finer sandpaper and probably paint it. But this just is going to set up here like that, and I always like to put another board on top of this. Now you see this one isn't as long as the other one. This has got a bad piece on it here. I'm going to cut that off, and just like this one, there's a knot right here. You don't want any knots in any part of your bow. So I'm going to put that on there like that, and well, let me just get it ready. Okay, what I like to do is I like to start the clamp in the center, and you'll see this glue run out here, and you just get a wet rag and you just wipe that off. And what I like to do is start in the center and work my way out, and that way it pushes it out. Instead of starting here, put one here, and then put one here, and then put one here, and all that, that pushes it in. But I guess any way will work. This just happens to be the way I do it. So let me get the rest of the clamps on here. Okay, I got these all glued up, and I got them clamped, and I was wrong earlier when I told you that I used this one over here, the one that came apart. I used the extra heavy duty one. That's the one that came apart on my test, and it delaminated. So just wanted to be clear on that. And this is going to take a while for this to dry, and I want to make sure it's on there nice and good. And I'm going to have to, this is another piece of wood here, I'm going to have to cut this down the side here, and I'll have to make the limbs and all that. I don't have a bandsaw, and I don't have one of those fancy little table sanders, so it may take a while for part 2, guys. So I appreciate your patience, and I'll enjoy any comments or anything y'all have to add to this. And this is the Homestead Prepper out. Hey guys, I just wanted to add in there the final clamping. I didn't show this to you, but I put a couple more clamps in there, and I don't know, you may say it's overkill, but I want to make sure that that thing is substantially clamped on there. Alright, just want to show that to y'all.